Hello and welcome everyone on this week's Security, Continuity and Recovery PECB webinars. Thank you for joining us in this ride and we hope you enjoy all our webinars. My name is Tim Rama, the PECB organizer of this webinar, and today's topic is why every company needs a CISO or Chief Information Security Officer. This webinar will be hosted by PECB partner and trainer, Mr. Daniel Robles, Managing Director of Cyborg, who has more than 20 years of experience in cyber and information security, research, training, and consulting services in this field. Please write your questions and comments in the question box in the right-hand control panel, and we will be gladly to answer to them accordingly. Please, Daniel, you may continue the presentation.
Okay, good morning and good evening to everyone, depending on the time zone that you are located. We are in Dominican Republic, on the midst of the Caribbean, with a sunny day and perfect time to go to the beach. Greetings from us to everyone. Today we're gonna answer the question why every company needs a CISO. This question is very important because it is a trend that needs to be answered on every company. Here we have part of the contents. It's not an index, it's not a table of contents, but it's just some of the questions that we are going to be answering during this presentation. Tim, are you hearing me okay? Is everyone listening? Team? Okay, here we go. What is a CISO? Where does a CISO come from? The plane of the CISO, the structure of the company, the roles and interaction with other executives, the goals of the CISO, CISO and the conflict of interest, CISO as a two-way translator, and the classic question, since the CISO has a very wide scope, is CISO a jack of all trades, a master of no one? We're gonna answer that. Finally, we are going to see the CISO audience. On the abstract, we need to make this introduction. We have this continuously growing demand for compliance and regulatory requirements. It seems impossible to find an organization that doesn't have regulatory requirements or needs to comply to a given standard. Besides that, there is an increase in attacks and data breaches. It seems like every day we can open the paper, we can go to the internet and see what is the latest and greatest data breaches of today. They are demanding the specialized roles in the organization to oversee as a whole security efforts as a full-time responsibility. Something that we may pay attention is this: full-time responsibility. Of all the major data breaches registered in the last several years, all of the organizations were plenty of technology resources, but were lacking an overarching responsibility where security is aligned with risk management. CISO nature is not to compete or predate technical-oriented positions like IT, communications, or just IT security, but provide management with the right understanding and guidance on security-related, well-timed information in order to make decisions based on risk and not only on return of investment. The first question we need to answer is, what does CISO stands for? Well, it comes from Chief Information Security Officer. It's just let's say a recently position, a new position that is on the C-level executive, and they are on the same level that the rest of the vice president or directors, depending on the structure of the company. It leads all security efforts to the organization, either at the board level, customer, regulators, stakeholders, and vendors. This guy comes to have this function among all these players. It protects by preventing and responding to security-related incidents. Who is the person responsible to go to the press and explain the situation that happens? Is just the CISO. When it comes, well, it says here that it comes from best practices and not from, let's say, any given standard or requirement. What is the CISO role and conflict of interest? The definition in this structure may vary depending on the organization. Most of the times we think that the best place to have the CISO is reporting to CIO, or some places may have it to CFO, or CEO or Chief Operating Officer, or maybe the CSO. What's the situation on this? In this particular example, we may have this situation in which there will be a conflict of interest because every one of these top executives has its own goal and something that they see as their primary objective. In the particular situation of the CSO, it may be that if the CISO reports to the CSO, Chief Security Officer, it happens that the priority for him in a given moment of time may be to strengthen or improve the physical security role. So it may not be a good idea to have it under the CISO. It is security, but it's in the whole security, including physical security. It may happen that this person comes from the military background. He may be an expert on VIP protection, in protection of assets, and other things like that. And in a given moment, it will put priority on other controls and other situations, but not on information security. The COO may be too much preoccupied, too worried with the day-to-day operation. The CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, may be also dealing with control expense, reporting, compliance, regulatory in some responsibility. So it may relegate CISO as on the second plane. On the CIO, here we have the most of the conflict of interest, because when it comes to his priority, he will be more interested in availability. So because of the nature and the definition of CISO, we think it's better to have the CISO reporting direct to the CEO at the same level of the rest of the C-level executive or the board. when it comes to security observation and perception of risks, it needs to be able to consider C-level executive as peers and not having any subordination between his position or her position and the CEO. Wherever the CISO reports, the motive for the company is to acknowledge that there is a person in charge of information security. We have now this question: is the CISO a jack of all trades, a master of no one? This expression has different meanings in different cultures, and try to have it in English. Because of the wide scope of CISO, he or she should be knowledgeable enough on so many areas. He has to understand governance, he has to understand risk, he has to understand IT security, he has to understand compliance, he has to understand different standards, he has to understand many aspects regarding security, governance, risk, incident management, disaster recovery, and anything that can affect the security, the overall information security capability of the company. But even when having so wide scope, it may not be a requirement to be a specialist on any given area. It doesn't mean that he can argue about it, but just to be concentrated on security as a whole. The main challenge for the CISO is to be able to understand risk, compliance, regulatory requirements, and be able to communicate to the board level. Being able to translate techies like IT and security into C-level executive with security service information. Let me try to explain this situation a little bit more. There is a gap between business and technical oriented areas. And the thing is that we need to be able to send the right message to the right group. And the CISO is the one that can translate from technical oriented people to executives that understand nothing about technology, and it's a lot better this way because they can concentrate on what they are good and is making money, is making the company profitable, making reaching objectives and things like that. And also we need to be able to translate the high level goals from executive into technical with security insight. It means that, and most of us understand this, the technical people is so oriented to technology, it's so oriented to equipment, it's so oriented to this new trend in technology, but not maybe aligned on protecting the company assets and understanding the goals as the CISO may help to understand. Now we come to the point. Is the CISO a dedicated role? It may be something that can be shared. What about if we have this model and then we combine this CISO with the CSO? Well, in some cases it will be, but what we must understand on the CISO and its goal to prevent and protect information security and security assets regarding information is that the threats that are against the company data or customer data are continuous, are an always on enemy. The question should be, why would we have a partial role on with the responsibility to protect from threats that are 24/7, 365 a year? Most of the time, multi-position roles relegate security in order to accomplish what is more important in a given time. I have a case of a friend that he came from IT and later he was promoted and now he's in charge. He's the CSO and wonder what is his main worry now, his main goal is to take control of the physical security and has relegated the information security because he has a bigger problem in physical security. It's something that we may understand because it may be feasible in the beginning, but because of the complexity of the attacks, of the complexity of requirements, this person has to be on the top level executive and be able to argue and have full responsibility continuous on this matter. Now we come to this question. The question is, why to have a CISO on board? This question is very interesting because I remember a time when some company had a problem. They have a bad situation in information security, and what they did is that they hired someone, but this someone they hired was not there to fix or to help. They just need some scapegoat. They just need someone to blame. And this is not the role of the CISO, having someone to blame and all fingers pointing to him when anything happens. We have this person that understands the business and has the authority and understanding to lead and provide guidance pertaining to risk management, communication skills, and enough abstraction to be able to convince C-level peers and change the risk posture in the organization. This guy is not a scapegoat, is not the one to blame, is not the tea party, is not, let's have this person so he takes all the responsibility. Remember that who has the final responsibility of security? It's not the CISO, it's the CEO who is the responsible and the representative of the company to government and authorities. Now we come to the CISO audience. Who he directs to? First, he directs to the C-level executive regarding perception of risk, compliance, regulatory issues, as well as security threats. Remember that the C-level executive They are wizards producing money, getting results, getting market share. They have a capability that we don't have. They can see where the money is, where the money goes. They can have a very profound vision on how to run the company. But guess what? They know nothing about risk, specifically when it comes to, let's say, risk, information, implications regarding compliance, many situations related to privacy, why this new model to make business on the web or to allow everyone to bring your own device into the company may not be the best idea because of this situation, and he's not to be a stumbling block in the projects of the company or the executives. He's not the negative guy, but he's watching and he's seeing what may not be left outside of discussion and are things regarding security, regarding risk, regarding privacy, regarding incident response. How are we going to answer if, what if? He has so many scenarios of what if in order to help the C-level executive see and prevent risk. He also talks a lot to tech-oriented internal functions like IT or security with business objective oriented to security. This is what happens most of the time. We have these guys, IT, that made the provisioning for the whole organization, and you have developers, and we have these guys with a very deep understanding of IPS and technical equipments and things like that, but may not be seeing the whole picture. Remember that everyone in this group has a baby that may be servers, that may be applications, that may be security equipment, that may be gadgets, that may be everything. And that's the role. They don't see any more than that. And there's where it comes the CISO to help them understand what are the objectives, the top objectives of the business, and what needs to be protected. Remember that these guys, even when they are technical, deep, they don't see, because of their function, because of the concentration, because of their day-to-day, they don't see everything. They see it on a very short range, but the CISO may be looking from an eye view, from a bird eye view, or from a plane on top of everything. He can see the forest, and that vision he has to translate it into technical oriented. And then we come to external parties like regulators, compliance, stakeholders, and public with a business-oriented, pertinent security information. What happens? Well, there's a new breach. Who has the responsibility to talk to the people? Who's gonna explain in a press conference? Sometimes it happens that because the CEO is the top authority in the company, just to the right person for communication, I mean, because of his authority, he may not be the best card to play when a problem arises. It may be that the CEO say, okay, our information especially security, especially our CISO, he's gonna give us details with the proper grounding on what happens. And because this person has a very good communication skills, he knows how to handle situation, questions. He can see that this question can compromise or bring, it's a tricky question. Everything like that regarding security, CISO is the right person to handle. He's the right person to have meetings in representation of the company. He is the right person to deal with regulators. He is the right person to be in boards among different organizations dealing with security information regarding the new laws, regarding trends and everything external to the company, but related to information security. CISO is the right person to have the mic. Now we come to the role of the CISO. This guy identifies, understands, and protects corporate data flow in and out like no other, and is able to express and convince board-level executives. Something that happens a lot. We have this merging, we have this partnership, we have this new company that we are making a lot of business with them. They are requesting to have access to this system or whatever, or to share information. Who's the right person to ask? Not who's the right person to ask. Who's the person that should be first seeing risk because he sees the implication. He maybe see that maybe that this data that our new partner is requesting, we are providing to this outsourcer, he may be seeing privacy issues. He may be seeing data loss prevention, and he, without being negative, remember, because most of times we see security guys like the bad guy, like the negative guy, the one that doesn't want to take risks. It's not the CISO does not want to take risks. He just wants to identify risk, communicate risk, so we can make the right decision pertaining that particular risk. And imagine convincing board level execs that are not 100% of the time seeing company implications. They may have meetings once in a while. They are top executive in another organizations, and they meet to discuss this new plan, but they may not finish this meeting and make decisions without listening with attention what the CISO has to say. The CISO also leads forensics, incident response, data recovery, business continuity teams, awareness, education, and anything related to information security pertaining IT. One visionary says that the CISO is the security guy. He really needs to understand the business risk, because a CISO job is not to protect IT, it's to protect the business from the IT infrastructure, because where is the major surface of risk for the company, for the organization? It's just the IT infrastructure, and we have to protect the organization from IT. That's what it says. implications as well. The third point, we have implication of corporate and customer data, privacy regulations, and acceptable use of data. CISO as a communicator, since communication is one of his most notable skills, CISO can help to have the right perspective on risk appetite. How far may the organization want to go in order to make a gain? The risk identification, the risk management, the awareness, the incident response, and prevention. And remember, the CISO is not the bad guy, is not the negative guy. He is just there to give us an objective view pertaining risk associated to information. And the question is, can we survive without a CISO? Because this question, when asked, most of the time is related to cost and headcount. And the board may ask, the other executives may ask, do we have the budget? Do we have the need? Is there a place to have another executive? Is even place for another chair in the table? The question should not be how much does it cost to an organization to have a CISO on board. The question should be completely different. Is how much damage will have or will it be for the company not to have a CISO? Remember that his role, his skills, her competence, her dedication, her vision, or his understanding is a skill that is not available in any other executive in the company. Then, if there is no one that has the time, that has the skill, that has the education, that has the mandate, that doesn't dedicate his time to this, then we have a hole in our plan if we don't have the role. I'm not saying have the person, but the role. And as I said before, it may happen that at first this responsibility may be shared, but in time it will be as the company grows and mature, and also as risks and threats and vulnerabilities and regulations and all other aspects and the trends in industry as cyberwar, as cyber theft and terrorism and other situations, we may not be able to postpone the role any longer. Some people may don't see the need today, but if they don't see the need, they don't see the need today. Maybe they don't have a right understanding of the value of their data, or the responsibility, or the legal implications. It's not that the CISO is a lawyer, but he understands the legal aspects enough to work with the counsel just to prevent damage to company, to information, to reputation, penalties, and things like that. Rejection to have this role may be equivalent to rejection to properly mitigate risk and reduce cost. And because CISO role is a way to manage risk and reduce cost, because we have the resource available, dedicated with the skills that is able to go direct to the top level executive and express his concerns and raise the flag or give this well-timed advice. He can go and roll his sleeves with the security teams, IT teams, incident response, in a recovery process, in a business continuity. I don't know. I really don't know how the company may go to the press or will receive the press when a major breach occurs. Not all of the times the answer can be, we cannot talk to you at this time. That's something you can deal with it in the first hours of an incident, of a breach, but it's not something that you can have forever. And the right person to deal with that and protect company reputation in front of third parties or external parties, or even to be able to defend the company before regulators, is just the CISO. So how can we survive without the CISO? The question is, the answer is very clear. We need that role. At first, it may not have all the flowers, may not have all the lights, may not have all the fireworks, it may not have all the power, it may not have all the structure, may not have all the people or the budget or everything, but it's something that we cannot postpone forever. The main drivers to hire CISO: regulation and compliance requirements. Who's going to deal with those regulations in the board? I mean, on the C-level executive or directors. Who's going to deal with that? We need to dedicate a resource. Reliance on information. We are in an information age. We are not so much producing goods, but we are processing information. That's most of what we do. That's what banking do. That's what universities do. That's what the government do every day. We rely on information, and then we need to have a resource for that. The size of the organization. On a startup that is developing products that doesn't have that massive third-party data, it's okay. He can depend or manage the timing. But in large organization, no, there's no way. We have to go ahead and hire a CISO so he protects the company data. Visibility, maybe this unknown company that doesn't has this reliance on data is not a, let's say, a target, is not so sensible to reputation damage because of information security. But if the case is different, then they need a CISO. The penalties associated with data breaches and non-compliance, a strategic vision. Where do we want to be in 3 years? Where are we going? The perception of risk, the need for leadership, and the segment the organization is in is one of the many aspects to be considered when to hire a CISO. CISO, we have to see it as a work in progress. This picture we have is a clay potter. We don't know at the end how this will look. Then we don't know how the CISO role definition, responsibilities, how will change in time. We don't know because it's a work in progress. But what we need to understand is that it will evolve on time. Nothing is written on a stone. It's not written on iron. It's a new role and it's being understood by the organization. So that's something that we need to be looking at the trends. Since we have so many contractors, providers, and things like that, it may happen that this role may become more like a manager of providers than internal resources. And since information security widens its scope, CISO definition may or may not be clearer. Will it become clearer in time? I don't know. It depends. It will be less clear? I don't know, because it's a work in progress. And situations may change. I don't know how the new threats, how the new interest, how new incidents, how will everything related to information security will affect the role of the CISO. That's something that we have to be watching. Better understanding of corporate and customer data will make a CISO role a requirement as a method of handling risk. At the present, CISO, as far as I understand, is not a requirement of any standard. It comes from best practice. But later in time, they may say, no, we don't want a guy or a lady that sees all security, including physical security, physical of assets, that comes from the military background, that has to deal with dogs, guns, and guards. No. We want someone very specific that his main role is to deal with information security that has become the big asset for the modern corporation. And then we go, time for questions. I don't know, team, do we have time for questions? If any question, you can send it here, and we will reply to you later in case you don't have any time.
Yes,
team,
Daniel.
We can also, we can also have the, excuse me?
Thank you very much for this great and informative presentation. We have, frankly, some questions, but before we wrap this up, I would kindly ask the attendees if there is anyone between us here, a CISO, and would like to speak up and add something about this position and the benefits. Please raise your hand or write on the question box so we have the opportunity to hear something from you as well. In the meantime, I have a question for you from Mr. Abdullah Salio, and knowing that you're managing director of your company and you're a leader, I think this is a very good question, Daniel. So he asked, can the CEO of an organization also assume the role of a CISO?
The thing is that it leads to a conflict of interest, because what's the main goal of the CIO? I'm not saying it cannot be. I'm just saying, and I'm sharing the screen again, that these two goals may be in conflict. At first, it may be, but as a transition, not as a permanent role. In a final situation, and depending of the nature, the size, the exposure of the organization, maybe we can move this CISO and we can merge it with CSO. But it will depend on the environment and the reality of the organization uh, being in this situation.
Thank you, Daniel. So once again, if we have anyone between the attendees that is his position is a CISO, we would greatly appreciate if you could share some thoughts with us regarding this topic. And now that we learned from Mr. Daniel that it is the position of a CISO is highly important and requires lots of knowledge, skills, and competencies. So training and certification is amongst them and plays a crucial role, an important role in obtaining a better position, which is a CISO. So that is why we are working on this to raise the competencies of professionals and individuals by providing professional training and certification for them to help. So I think we have another. Yes, Daniel, you had to add something?
Yeah, I mean, because of the wide scope of this, a very good way to acquire the knowledge to deal with this, not from a very, I mean, technical, because this guy, he's not to configure firewalls, you see, like in the movie. But there are specifically a set of trainings available based on standards from ISO, like 20001, 22301, 27035 for incident handling, that may help polish their skills in the way to CISO.
Exactly. So we have another question from Mr. Pedro Navarro. He asks that, in a nutshell, what's the best way to sell the need of a CISO to management? So how to convince management to hire a CISO?
Okay, the best way to convince the management is showing that because of the nature of attacks and the exposure continuously of information, how can we have a right protection only protecting half of the time or the attention of the individual? I mean, we are under siege 24/7, but only have guards from 9 to 5. How can they deal with that? I mean, when a breach occurs that sooner or later will happen, they may find in negligence for not having the right resource to deal with this threat. I mean, we have this person that is available that is most preoccupied with understanding data, information, implications than running just reports. That belongs to operation. And most of the times what we see as an equivalent to CISO is really doing security operations on a day-to-day basis. It's not that we're gonna have these people with not job definition and plenty of time, but we need to slot enough time available to this person so he can dedicate to understand the implications of information security.
Thank you, Daniel. And I just wanted to add to Mr. Pedro that if you're aiming to convince, or for anyone else who are aiming to convince the top management to hire a CISO, a good way to sell or to present this idea would be by using Mr. Daniel's presentation. I think it would be quite some helpful tool. So in this case, since we don't have any more... Yes, Daniel?
I mean, there's plenty of information. We can see that maybe 80% of the big companies, they already have this role identified and have the people assigned to it. Even though we are seeing loss of breach every day. So we can have a bench, we can make a bench with our peers in different places, in more mature environments, and they say, hey, they have it. And we can have, we can also use what we read every day on the paper, on the news, and show them, see what happens. Are we prepared for this? Do we have someone thinking on our behalf? Because there are tons of people thinking against us. CISO role is not security operations, day-to-day security operations.
We're going to take the last question, Daniel, which we have from Mr. Abraham Nunez, and wrap it up for today. For all other questions, we will answer to them individually through email. So his question is, in some countries like mine, the requirement of a CISO has not escalated very well yet. In bigger companies like mine, where the history came from an operational IT security to a wider needs of risk management, compliance, and incident management, the reality is that a manager level has to be at the same time an operational manager, a tactical director, and a CISO, all at the same time. How do you suggest we can move the C-level mindset from an old-fashioned framework to a new breed of CISO on the board?
That's a very interesting question, because he is suggesting how to affect the top level executives, making a change from a bottom up. And sometimes things doesn't work like that, because what we see that changes happen when they on the top level they understand the nature and the consequence of risk. I think that the best way, and I don't know his position in his company, I don't know if he's in operation or the culture that he's in. It could be anywhere in any world. Anywhere in the world. The best way to deal with that would be to find a sponsor in the C-level environment, someone that is sensitive, maybe.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Daniel. He's from Dominican Republic, so maybe you can answer more precisely to that.
Okay, fine. The best way could be to have some sponsor that helps him champion awareness on the top level. You see, and this is something very interesting, because, as I said in one of the slides, it's not a role that can be associated to any return of investment. You see, it's like legal department. How do you measure their contribution to the company? Well, it may be subjective, because you cannot quantify what you may have won, may have lost. They need to go and find the right person with access to the C-level. Maybe his own IT vice president. But as I already said, depending where he is in the infrastructure, in the structure, or where he reports to, he may not be. The top CIO may not be the person. Maybe if there is a situation with risk, maybe I really don't know. It will vary. It will vary from company to company, but definitely it will need a champion to help him promote this idea because he doesn't have assets. He's not a C-level executive. He may be reporting, I don't know how many levels down. He may not be able to, let's say, okay, guys, let's meet, and I want to share this new idea or this need that I discovered. No, no, no. He has to go through a champion to help him make the change on top.
Thank you very much, Daniel. We will call it off for today. Thanks once again for this quite informative presentation. I want to thank all the attendees as well for taking the time out of your busy schedules and joining us. We have received all your questions and we will answer to them the ones that we couldn't answer today through emails individually. Please check PECB's webinar schedule in our website www.pecb.org for the next upcoming webinars that will be organized. Don't forget to register for the next week's webinar on Wednesday, and at the same time we will be talking about how to develop a cyber incident response management plan and for the upcoming webinars as well. Thank you again, and see you.
One last thing.
Yes, Daniel?
Yeah, that maybe if there's enough interest, we can have this presentation in Spanish later, which
Yes.
is my mother tongue.
Yes, definitely. We will try to organize another one in Spanish, so the other market in Latin America and Spain can join us. Thank you once again, Daniel, and thank to all the attendees. See you next week.